board. And Christina R., you could take us away.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. Hello, everybody. And to those of you we haven't seen in a while, welcome back. And welcome to all of you that are joining us for the first time. I mean, it's obvious that we have picked a topic that speaks to all of you, and we're really happy to have you. So with not much ado, let me please introduce our speaker for the session today. Ms. Christina Garnett. She is HubSpot's Principal Marketing Manager, Offline Community and Advocacy. She has been featured in the Startup, Better Marketing, Digital Vault, and the Next Web. She is also an award-winning advocacy strategist, a top 100 CMA strategist, one of the CMAs to watch, and the MB/A advisor to the Morning Brew. So we are thrilled that she has come here and she's bringing with her her community building brain and heart for us today. For this session, please feel free to ask questions during the session. We'll be monitoring the chat as well. And also, please don't feel like you need to furiously write down notes and take screenshots. We're going to be recording, as you can see, and sharing this session after we are complete. Oh, got more people coming. Hello, everybody, as you're coming.
Yeah, and I'm kind of muting everybody as they come in. So if you have a question or want to participate or engage, feel free to unmute yourself. We just don't want to hear background noise.
So, and I appreciate your patience. I had to read that laundry list of alkylates that Miss Christina carries because I couldn't memorize it. I could not memorize it. So welcome, everybody. And I want to ask you, what is community to you? I looked at definitions of community, and there were many different variations of what community is. So I picked one that I liked best that I think fits what we're going to be discussing here. And it was friendship between different people or groups and a sense of having something in common. So in terms of that definition and what we're discussing here, I wonder, can you go ahead and put in the chat just what comes to mind for you as community? What communities are you a part of? What is your most memorable, most favorite, most important community? I'm trying to think of one myself. Got a couple. Yeah, the Rotary Club, that's a good one. Yes, church is a big community. I will tell you, I have there's a community here in Atlanta that does pop-up dinners at different locations around town, with the theme being that the chef is from a specific country, like Senegal, like not naturally available food. That's a great community for me. I like foodie stuff. HubSpot. Yeah, I have an alumni group that I am going to an event this week. Yeah, that's a great community. What's a personal village, Siobhan? I'd love to expand on that.
Like your chosen family, those who you.
Oh, you're defining community. Yes, that's a good one. Personal village. I think we all have, family is a big one. Sometimes family is better than. That's the first community you go to before the actual family. Brilliant. I love all. Okay. So I think we all have my dog's friends' parents. Yeah, there's millions of different little communities, and I think we all have a handle on what community is. So I want to launch into what we're going to be discussing during this session. So let's take it to that.
Yeah, I stopped my share, so Christina G could start hers.
She can start hers. And I think you might be on mute, Christina.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm honored to be able to represent the HubSpot community, and I know there are some HubSpotters as well as HubSpot community members in the chat. So feel free to keep me honest if I say anything that you're like, no, you don't do that. Feel free to keep me honest, ask questions. I really want this to be a very collaborative effort. So if there's something that I say that you're not keen on or you have questions about, feel free to put those in the chat so we can go ahead and go. As I was telling my host previously today, I was a teacher in a former life, so I'm not afraid of being interrupted midstream. So, and with that, I want to just go over what we're talking about today. We're talking about scaling community and scaling brand affinity. It really is this act of love. And if you've worked with me at all, you know that I talk about love a lot in a lot of the work that I do, and really trying to create those bonds, create those connections, and also how we can foster that love for HubSpot as a whole. And so we're going to talk about what that currently looks like for most companies and most communities as a whole, as well as what is brand affinity? What can that look like? What does success look like? How do you know that you're actually doing it correctly? We're going to talk about how advocacy can help you grow and how there's those specific elements that are going to make people feel a stronger bond with you. If community is about creating a bond, brand affinity is about making that bond even stronger. So they're going to be the first people that you go to. So they're going to be the people who elevate you, who are the ones who are always cheering on you from the sidelines. And then we're going to talk about, from a strategic place, how to do this from an advocacy program perspective if you're looking to build something like what HubSpot has. And never fear, I know that there are people on this call who don't have HubSpot's budget and don't have HubSpot's headcount. And so we're going to talk to the people who are small business owners, who are one-man bands. You don't have to be large in order to be able to create this kind of love. And so we're going to talk about that. So what we're looking at is a lot of people, when they're thinking about their community, they're thinking about their customer base, they're very much a one-directional perspective. And a lot of those people don't feel appreciated. They don't feel loved. They don't feel talked to. If you've ever had someone slide into your LinkedIn DMs and they only want to talk to you when they can get something out of you, when they're trying to pitch something, and then they ignore you the rest of the time, that's what a lot of what we currently have. We call a lot of things community when what it is I'm calling you because I need something. And when you need something, I'm nowhere to be found. I am miraculously busy all of a sudden, or I all of a sudden forgot how to use my LinkedIn or Twitter DMs. We really don't want that. We need this to be multi-directional. And so what that looks like is going from a place where your top fans feel underappreciated or they don't feel heard to they actually feel appreciated. They feel loved. They know that you're thinking about them, that you're listening to what they're saying, that you understand that their needs might be changing. Over the past 3 years, since everything that happened in 2020, a lot of what is happening and what matters to us in a short-term and long-term basis has completely transformed. So if you are making assumptions based on who your customers were and what their needs were in 2019, you're struggling right now because they have completely reevaluated their business, their family life, how and when they spend money. And we're seeing that even now in 2023, because it's not been a kind year. There's been a lot of economic downturn. We saw massive changes over this month. We saw the SVB collapse and how that could impact not only large businesses, but small businesses, startups, investors, all of those things. And so we're really seeing that we are connected. It turns out that we only see how connected we are when bad things happen. And so I challenge you to look for those connections in the good times. Look for those connections when you don't need anything. Look for those connections when you want other people to feel like you're a champion for them, that you love them, that you want them to be in a better place. And that's going to create that connection, that deeper connection, where they feel like they love HubSpot and HubSpot loves them back, where they feel like they have a seat at the table. They're able to ask questions. They're able to really think about what's important to them and how does that relay. One of the first things I did when I started at HubSpot, I was lucky enough to have been a fan for quite a while. So I knew a lot of the people who were already in the ecosystem. I had worked with a couple partners. I knew a lot of the bigger names in the space. And so the first thing I did when I was able to announce was I put on Twitter, if you're a HubSpot fan, slide into my DMs. I want to talk to you. And I had those conversations where it was, when was the last time you felt loved by us? When was the last time you felt like we actually listened to what you had to say? What does love look like to you? How do you feel appreciated? What kind of opportunities would you like to have? And so if you're in the Hub Fans Council and other Hub Fans programs, you'll see that I'm constantly asking, what are you working on? What are your goals for this year? How would you like to be involved? because that's going to help us continue to mature a program that really suits the needs and the interests of the people who are inside of it. And that's honestly what you need to grow. So we need to grow this. We want to know what that looks like. We want to be able to foster this brand love. And at the end of the day, I really love the Pixar story spine because it comes from a place of emotion first. If you can get me emotionally tethered to any of the characters within that movie, then I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to care. It's Pixar, so I'll probably cry, but it's going to make me behave in certain ways. The biggest behavior is emotion. And you see this in everyday life. And if you're on social, you will 100% see this. It's just the emotion that most people trigger is disgust or anger. That's why you have angry posts on Facebook, and that's why they tend to go viral more often. Depending on how strong the emotional response, the stronger the behavioral response will be into that. So if you want to make people do certain things, the easiest way to do that is to channel emotion. And so probably the best way to think about this is to look at this pyramid. If you've heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I created this version specifically for customers and delight. And what this looks like is you have the same levels that Maslow had, but we're not looking at it from a human, I gotta survive perspective. We're looking at this from a customer perspective and the different layers that are required in order to get them to those higher peaks. And that foundational survival level is so absolutely priceless because I can't get you to love me if I can't do the bare minimum. If I'm not doing what I promised, if we have a contract and I'm not doing what you requested, then how can I make you be a fan when you can't even get what you were bare minimum promised? So you need to understand that that core baseline is that customer layer. You got to get the customer care layer done first. You got to do what you said you're going to do. You got to meet the expectations of the deadlines that you set. If you have a proposal that was signed in a contract, then you need to make sure that you're delivering on that contract. You can't move up the pyramid until that customer care is taken care of. Also, a part of that customer care is support. We see this in the HubSpot community. We see this on Twitter when people are having questions or something isn't working the way that they expected. Nothing is perfect. And so in addition to taking care of your customers, you need to make sure that they feel safe. By having a strong customer success and customer support program, they're going to know that if something bad does happen, they're still going to be taken care of. They're not going to be left to their own devices. And that is that really strong layer above that survival in the customer care package. Second, we have delight. This is where we get into community and we get into swag. And this is also where brands stop. We will give you a hoodie. We will give you a mug. We will make you feel special, but I'm not giving you more than that. You get a $35 hoodie. It's going to have something really cute emblem on it, and that's it. And that's great, but you deserve so much more than that. And customers are becoming more and more consciously aware that there is more out there for them. More importantly, they know what that hoodie cost. So that first hoodie has a dopamine effect. Oh, this company loves me. I'm so excited. I can't wait to wear this. But with each subsequent swag piece that they get, it never means as much as that first piece. You have diminishing returns. And so as you continue to have swag, if that's the top level of love that you're actually sharing with your customers, eventually it's not going to keep as well. It's not going to matter as much. And you're going to have to give more to get the same kind of behaviors that you did in the past. That top level is where the magic happens. And that top level, honestly, is also cheaper. So if you're thinking about, hey, I'd love to make these people love me back, but I have absolutely no budget. The only thing you need in that top layer is creativity. Think about all the things that are priceless that you could provide that could help you and be mutually beneficial. Imagine that you have someone who always has an opinion on something. They respond to every single email, they go to every single webinar, they ask questions, they want to be involved. How easy would it be for you to reach out to them and be like, hey, we'd love to introduce you to our product team. We know you love to share feedback. We'd love to have you talk to them and share, these are the things about this product that I love. Here's the feedback that I have. Here's something that I wish you'd add that could completely transform my experience and make it better for me. You're getting free R&D. You're getting feedback. And when and if you actually deploy what those people asked for, they're going to act like they owned it. They're going to act like they invented it, and they're going to social share that better than your social team will. And it will be believed because they are a human. So thinking about what are those ways, what are those really great ways that you can make them the hero, that you can make them shine. If you are on this call and you have been an inbound correspondent, then you know one of the ways that we do this. You get to go to inbound, you get to be a correspondent, you get to show your perspective of the event, what specific sessions you went to, what you thought was cool, what you learned, how you would activate on that. And that's priceless. That's something that only HubSpot can give you. So think about, what are those opportunities that only your company can give your customers? What are those opportunities to connect with your internal team, to share feedback, to share insights, to share what they would love to do? We always ask, if you had a magic wand, what would you do? But why don't we actually ask that question and actually get those people in front of product and put them in front of the people who are making those decisions on the roadmap? That is such a budget-free way to be able to make someone feel special, to feel empowered, to feel like they really love and feel appreciated and heard from the brand. Now, before I keep going, there's some questions in the chat, so I'm going to slide in here. All right, LOL, true, hearts. All right, cool, just hearts. Love it.
Yeah, no questions yet. I promise I'll
Okay. Okay. So I have a long history in social strategy. I worked at ICUC as a senior strategist and worked with brands that were like Fortune 100, a lot of crisis comms. I've seen the worst of the worst. One of the biggest problems I see with brands, one of the biggest pitfalls, is that they see social and they see reactions to their customers as a fire they have to put out. And so they are always looking at their customer relationships as support. They're only looking at it in terms of, you're probably mad at me if you're reaching out. Therefore, I have to be ready to put out that fire. But then they ignore and don't set any side time to love on those people. How many times have you reached out to a brand on social to give them praise? Oh my God, this was such a great experience. Thank you. How many of those were returned with the same kind of level of energy that you would have had if you had gone out there and put on your best Karen haircut and started yelling at them? Very rarely will you see the same level of attention for love as you will for anger and hate. And that's a problem, because what you're doing, whether you realize it or not, is you are conditioning those people to only talk about you when they're mad. If someone goes on social and loves you and you don't respond, that is the same as you would feel if you told someone you love them and they don't say anything in return. You are taking someone who's already a fan and you are ignoring them, because that love is not as important to you as someone else's anger and someone else's fire that you can put out. So I challenge you, look for the people who love your brand, and it takes seconds. It takes seconds to make that love on a whole different level. Now they want to tell absolutely every single person they've ever met how great you are. You have to try this company. You have to do them. They love this. And you make them feel appreciated and you make them feel heard. And I'm sorry, but social media all stems from the fact that we want to be seen and heard.
So
That's all it is.
based on that, I have a question from Kathy.
Yeah.
As my customer base grows, it is hard for my small company to do all the follow-up praise and extra magic, right?
Yep.
And I think we all identify with this. Is
Yeah.
there something that can be outsourced with still a personal touch? We may be diving into AI here, but yeah.
One thing I would do is I would do social listening. And there are lots of opportunities to do social listening on a very small scale. So what I would do is I would create a list of just keywords that you would think about, and don't just look at your ads. You'd be surprised how many people are not atting you on social and they're saying good things. When someone ats you, it's because they 100% want you to see it. If they don't care if you see it or not. So it could be good, it could be bad. There could be a PR crisis you don't know about because you weren't tagged. There could be someone who absolutely loves your brand, but you don't know because it's tagged. So let's try 3 keywords. So the brand name, not with the at, maybe the key product that you're known for or the industry, and then like one thing that's a bit more general. So like specific to a little bit more general. And then what I want you to do is I want you to set up Talkwalker alerts. So Talkwalker alerts are completely free. It's like Google Alerts. And you're going to go in, you're going to pick up your thing, and you can say like, send me this report weekly, send me this report daily, send me this report monthly. And it's going to pull Twitter mentions. It's going to pull blog mentions and news mentions. So it's going to give you that every day. And then you can choose what you want. The other thing I would do, and this is something I personally do, you don't have to, Every day I wake up and I'm ready to start my day, I do a Twitter search of HubSpot just to see what I'm walking into. Are we like super happy? Is there no news? Is there something I should be excited about? Is like this something I should flag? It takes 5 minutes and I immediately sets me on my day. And I know if something's going down, if someone has questions about us that I could flag an advocate to, but that's what I do. And it takes like 5 minutes just to get my day started. You'll find that a lot of the content that you can find is on Twitter, then LinkedIn, Reddit, and Facebook. Reddit's a little bit harder. So you're going to be doing a lot of native searches because otherwise you usually have to pay pretty expensive rates to get TikTok and Reddit data. But start with Twitter just to see what's out there. And
Christina,
then,
would you also recommend doing the same for like key competitors?
I would, once you have a handle on your own. If you do yourself and your competitors, it can feel very overwhelming incredibly quickly. I do have a SEMrush class on social listening. So if you're like, this is great, but I don't know how to implement this, my SEMrush class on how to start a social listening program, it has spreadsheets you can steal. It has keyword lists you can steal. It has all the paperwork that you would need. It has everything as a link that you can do. And I can also share those here if you want. So I want to show you what good looks like. Chewy is God tier to me. Like when I think about customer care, Chewy is the baseline. Like nothing compares. Absolutely nothing compares. And what they wind up doing is they do this in multiple ways. They pay attention, they do social listening, they see how people are talking about them. They also hijack trends in a really thoughtful way. One thing they did that was really cool was on May the 4th, May the 4th be with you. A lot of brands try to steer themselves into that Star Wars conversation. What Chewy did was they asked for people to share their dogs or pets who had Star Wars related names. And then they sent them paintings of their pet. When we're talking about going from customer care to customer delight, that is on a whole different level. Because what you are doing is you're tying into that emotion. Oh, my company takes care of the most important thing, one of the most important things in your house. Why don't we immortalize that? So every time you see that painting, you not only think of something that you absolutely adore, but you're connecting it to this brand. Chewy literally said, we are going to tether ourselves to something that you love and make sure that you always tether us to that. And then when they are going to lose a customer, they take it up another level. There are people who will call into Chewy because their animal has sadly passed away. And they'll say, hey, I need to cancel this like automated, like monthly delivery I have. I'm no longer going to need it. This could be the time where any other sales team or customer care team would have a set, like canned response to try to figure out some way. Well, you'll probably get another dog soon. You should just keep it. Like just finding a way to keep that retention. And instead, knowing that that potential customer is at the end of their life cycle with them, unless they get another animal, which could take time, they send them flowers. They send their condolences. The card has a note from the person that they spoke to on the phone. They treat them like a friend. They treat them with empathy. And every time you see it, it goes viral. You know why? I don't know if it's because Chewy's really good or that as a society, this is so remarkable to have this level of empathy. Because I think a lot of companies could do this, but none of them do. And as a society, we, as much as we love fighting on the internet, we also love like glimmers of humanity, of hope. And this gives people hope. Like, can you imagine a business doing that? That's lovely. That makes me want to become a customer. And so when you're thinking about this, that emotional tether, that empathy tether makes you want to be treated the same way. And that's also what happens online. That's what happens on social. If I see how you treat someone online, I'm going to assume that if I become a customer of yours, I will be treated the exact same way. So if I love you and you don't love me back, and someone else sees that, they're going to assume that if they love you, they will not be heard. They will not be loved back. If they are angry and you are passive aggressive to them and in a response to them, they're going to assume that they are going to be treated the same way accordingly. You are conditioning your prospective customers and your community based on how you treat other people, they will assume that you will treat them the exact same way, for better or for worse. And this is why love is the most beautiful emotion that you can tie things to. And if you haven't seen Inside Out, I highly recommend it. It's an emotional movie. But the thing about this is that you're creating core memories with your audience. You're creating core memories with your community. You're creating things that they are going to remember for the rest of their life. And it's not these big, grandiose things. Love is not built in these massive, grandiose moments. Love is built in these small moments. Love is built in those moments where they need something and they feel like they are at their wits' end, and you respond with empathy. Those core memories happen when you give them things that no one else can give you. And how I'm going to pick on one of my favorite people, Troy Sandage. So Troy Sandage, who's one of our Hub Fans Council members, he was a correspondent for the 2021 Inbound, and he tweeted quicker than I thought was humanly possible. He's walking AI. He just created content like nothing I've ever seen. So last year, he was selected to be our main stage host at Inbound, and he absolutely crushed it. Who on earth, other than HubSpot, is going to be able to give him a main stage host at Inbound? That's a core memory for him. It's something that's going to stay with him for the rest of his life. And he absolutely deserved it, and he absolutely crushed it. But that's what I'm talking about. It's those really core seminal moments that you're able to cement those relationships that really builds that connection to a different level. That makes people see themselves as so much more than just, hey, I'm in this community. It's when I'm sad, I can come to these people. When I'm happy, I want to talk to them because I know they'll celebrate me. There's a lot of things that we've learned since 2020. I have a lot of online friends, and we've joked about how like our online friends will cheer for us louder than our family and friends in real life. And that's what a good community does. A good community is there to pick you up. A good community will cheer for you. When it feels like no one else is rooting for you, they are on the bench screaming your name. You have to think about, what do core memories look like for you and your community? And how are you finding those opportunities? How are you providing them? So we've talked about community, we've talked about love, we've talked about brand affinity. How does advocacy play a role in that? The thing is that HubSpot's going to tell you how great HubSpot is. Period. We're not going to tell you we suck. Of course we're not. We're going to tell you we're great. So is every other business. And that is why it isn't what we are telling you. It is what our customers are telling you. It is what our partners are telling you. It is what the people who are working in our community, who are answering questions, are champions. We trust strangers. If I'm thinking about buying something on Amazon, I'm going to look at reviews. I don't know a single one of those people who I'm reading. I don't know any of them, but I'm going to believe them purely because they aren't the brand. And so since they aren't the brand, maybe I can believe them. I'm going to go on TikTok and watch a haul video to see how something looked. I'm going to see a makeup tutorial and see what they use to see if it would work for me. We're doing all these things because we inherently want to believe, but we don't believe brands. We've been burned by advertising. We know what those things look like. We are constantly trying to relate to find someone who is like us, who has a problem like us, so that they can tell us what worked. That's why customer reference calls work. It's why customer case studies work. It's why when you have an advocate tell you to sign up for an event, you're more likely to sign up for that than someone else. We don't trust brands, period. We do want to believe, but we know better. We've been burned too many times. So think about who is telling your story, if not you. Because if you were telling your story, of course you're going to say how great you are. Of course you're going to say how you were going to solve all of the problems of the universe. But who is telling your narrative and is believed? You have to think about who those people are.
Let me ask you this question from Dan. How does brand affinity and hierarchy of needs change when your customers and or community are B2B partners or B2B to C? How do you build esteem and self-actualization when partners aren't on the social channels as much or don't care about a hoodie?
That's a great question. So when we're talking about partners, we have to go, it always goes back to what is their motivation and what are their goals? So what do they want? Maybe they don't want a hoodie, but maybe they want added revenue. Maybe they want access to something that they wouldn't have had otherwise. So you always have to tailor it based off of what those motivations are. So whether you're in B2B or B2C, you still need to be thinking about things from a one-to-one and one-to-many perspective. What are the motivators that are in this room that I don't know about? That's why you need to be doing customer interviews. You need to be knowing what's changed. I would not just be saying like, hey, we got to interview them this week. We got to interview them once a year, and then like have it in your Asana as a to-do list. Anytime there is a major event that you think could impact your group, your community, you should be looking. So like, for example, SVB went down. I immediately read every single thing I could to understand from like a layman's perspective what is actually happening. And then I immediately started doing social listening. I started looking at partners on LinkedIn. I started looking on Twitter. I started seeing like, is anyone talking about this? Has someone talked about how they've been impacted? Do I need to flag this to somebody to make sure that our team is taking care of them if they need anything? You have to be, and it comes from my crisis comms background, but you have to be ready and be like, all right, this is going to change things. How do I go now? And you don't have to spend hours on it. Spend like 5 minutes. You can find a lot of information with a Google search. You can find a lot of information on Twitter in 5 minutes, seeing like, all right, what does this mean? And if you have tools that you're using, like a common room or a talk walker or whatever, look to see like, are there things changing in your community? Ask the community managers or the social team, has anyone reached out to us that has been impacted by blank? And they'll tell you, they'll know. Your community managers, I know Erica's on this call, so I'm going to pick on her. I know I can go to Erica and ask her what's happening in the community, and she can tell me. Because she lives there. She knows. She knows exactly what's happening. Oh, well, this is a big deal, or this conversation is getting a lot of traffic right now, or some people are talking about this. They know. Social team, they know. And all you have to do is invite them to that conversation. They can't wait to be asked. They want to tell you what's happening in the community. They want to tell you how it's impacting them. They want to tell you what they're living and breathing and seeing every day. It's just the problem is it's so hard to get those people in the room. And I invite you to get them in the room because they have so much knowledge to share about you and tell you about in B2B. These are the customers who are always the most loud. These are the ones who are always raising their hands for opportunities. These are the ones who want to work with us, or they just talked to us and said they want this opportunity or that opportunity. Or B2C, we have these customers. They're always talking to us in this Facebook group, but they're never on LinkedIn. Or they're always talking about this specific product around this time of year. We need to be paying attention. You just have to be customer obsessed. And if you're customer obsessed, you're going to start gradually doing those behaviors because you're curious. You want to know more and more and more about what's happening in their day-to-day life and how things are impacting them. I hope that answers your question.
Great. We had a couple more questions come in, one on authenticity. So, companies, they have issues building an authentic community.
Yep.
So are there suggestions that you have for maintaining authenticity within a community? How do you best manage the third-party storytellers when they have suboptimal experiences?
I think that goes back to having a really strong feedback loop. You want to make sure that you're close and you're seeing what's happening, because just as if something could be affecting your members, that could be affecting your team. And then your team maybe is too busy. And now maybe they aren't taking care of the community the way they would have normally. But you need to be paying attention to them to see what's happening. And then authenticity for me comes down to, how are you talking to them? How are you relating to them? How are you communicating? And I absolutely hate canned responses. As soon as I see a canned response more than once, I no longer feel special. I know that I'm a copy and paste response. You didn't want to take like a minute to say something different to me. And so I think for authenticity for brands is you need to be very thoughtful. And in the age of AI, I think it's even more important. You need to be incredibly protective about what is human and what is automated. And whatever you decide needs to be human, you need to protect it and safeguard it, because there's always going to be a fight for, well, you could be more efficient, but I could also be more human too. And people connect with humans. No one wants to talk to bots inside the community to make them feel better. Bots don't make you feel better. Bots can help you do stuff, but they're going to hug you and make you feel warm and fuzzy. They're not going to make you feel like you belong. They're not going to make you feel heard. If anything, the times where you need human connection the most are the times when you are either hyper angry or hyper happy. And think about it this way. Automation is fine until you need a human. Case in point, let's say that someone charged something crazy on your credit card and fraud didn't detect it. And so you got a call to talk to a human, but you got to go through like 20 different scripts. And with each time you get asked a question by a bot, the angrier and angrier and angry, like it just keeps escalating to the point where you were screaming on the line, like, please just let me talk to a human. You were like you're going to break the 0 on the pad of your phone. The more extreme your emotion, the more you need human connection to help you resolve it or to help you handle it or to celebrate it with you. And if someone's having a bad experience in your community and they need a human and they don't have a human, they're going to leave. Because what are you offering them if you aren't offering them connection? Why would they stay? Why would they come back? They're not. If we're going to focus on brand affinity and love coming from these core memories and this love language, we're talking about deeply human behaviors. And so I challenge people on the call to honestly want to constantly be figuring out how we can make the experience better. What's not working? And that's the thing too, is people hate negative feedback, but negative feedback is where you grow. If someone says to me like, everything's perfect, I'm super happy, everything's great. Like, I'm happy you're happy, but I can't action on that. Like, can you imagine me talking to like C-suite and be like, so what are you doing? Nothing new. Everything's great. Nothing. I don't have to do a single thing different. I don't have to add anything. Everything's great. I can't imagine C-suite being like, cool. Be like, what else? What else are we doing? Because nothing's perfect. So come from a place where you have a tight feedback loop and you are creating psychological safety so that people feel like they can be negative. So that they feel comfortable saying like, hey, Christina, this isn't good. I don't like this. This didn't make me feel great. I don't feel included. Or this didn't make me feel special. If you really want your community to thrive, you have to understand there's going to be bumps in the road. You have to create the psychological safety that they not only can appreciate that it's not perfect, but that they feel comfortable enough to tell you. Because 9 times out of 10, they will tell you what's wrong, and then they'll tell you how you would fix it or how you could fix it. And that gives you what you need to see, like, maybe this is a bigger problem. Maybe there's a lot of people in this community that feel the exact same way, but they didn't feel comfortable. Or maybe they thought it was just a them problem. It's really important to focus on how you can connect with people so that they want to talk to you. So they want to do more. But in order for them to do more, these are the conditions they need. And I think as we continue to see like micro changes, we need to be aware of that. For example, summertime. Online communities don't do great during the summertime. You know why? You're living a life. Hopefully you're on a beach somewhere. Hopefully you're doing nice things with your family. If I just look at the data, it looks like our community's falling apart. Or I could be human, go in there and be like, so where is everyone going? This sounds really exciting. How about we share like trip pictures and get to know more about what matters to us? There's always an opportunity to connect. You got to look past the data to see what are these humans doing? What matters to them? And that's what's going to get you to that next level. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm going to give you one other. I know we're at 15 minutes before the bottom of the hour, but this is a unique community question.
Mm-hmm.
People often ask for help and services, like help my family member find a job.
Mm-hmm.
When do you charge them for the service versus doing it for free? I often do it for free and feel like they quickly forget or don't appreciate the help.
That's a really good question. I struggle with that myself. I'm a sucker for let me pick your brain. And then it's like an hour that I could have paid for consulting. That is just like that. I think it really depends. You know your time better than I do. And you know what matters to you better than I do. So if you have a ton of people who are asking you for help finding a job, Maybe that's an opportunity where you spend 30 minutes creating resources for them, and then you can share that with multiple people so they can be helped. So you still don't have to charge, but you're able to help multiple people without it impacting your life. I think boundaries are important too there. If someone wants help, what does that help look like? And what does that help entail? 5 minutes? Cool. 3 hours? Very different. And just being honest. I think that also small businesses, anyone that's had a small business can relate to this. You expect your family and friends to support you, but they want a discount. They don't want to be the ones who are championing you. They think that their proximity to you should mean that they get a discount instead of their proximity to you being, they should be the loudest and proudest supporter you have. So set boundaries and understand that you have to protect your knowledge and you have to protect your time. And it really comes down to your choice. And it's, like I said, I struggle with that very much in the same way.
Christina, I think that another thing that could help is really enlisting the community to help these people, right? Yep. So I know of a company, actually my husband's employer is in the edutech space. And in COVID, when a lot of turmoil was going on, what their CEO did is he created a spreadsheet and like made it open to everybody. List your job openings, list the jobs you're looking for. And people could kind of self-serve in there. Didn't take more than 5 minutes of his time to set it up.
Yep. It's a really great way. I mean, I love that. I think collaboration opens a lot of doors for us. And it also means that we're not all carrying the mental and time weight of it all. So yeah, boundaries, but see how you can use the community and collaborate. Absolutely. And I can speed read through the rest of this deck if I have to.
No.
I do want to stress though that a lot of my work runs on vibes, and leadership doesn't want to hear about vibes. They want to hear about metrics and data and what am I impacting and what am I doing. And so one of the great ways to think about this is to reverse engineer. So if I'm thinking about what does leadership want me to focus on and what does leadership want me to do, if I think about that KPI and the KPIs associated with those goals, then I reverse engineer based off of what desired behaviors need to occur in order for that KPI to look the way that I want. Is it people are doing upsells? Is it people are going to events? Like whatever that looks like, what is the desired behavior that needs to happen in order for that KPI to look nice? And then reverse engineer again. How can I trigger that behavior in a thoughtful and authentic way without it coming across as me just running around asking for favors? And then what friction is currently preventing them from that? Because it's one thing to trigger the behavior, but if there's friction blocking them anyway, you're doing a lot of effort that isn't going to really move the needle at all. So think about what is the trigger and what is the friction that's really happening behind those. This is one of the things that I created that I really love. I think it breaks down and makes you really think about the advocate journey. We do a lot of customer journey maps at HubSpot, but I love the advocate journey map because it makes you really think about where do people really live in your world, and makes you think about, if I are a happy customer, what are the things that I can do to trigger them to get them into the next level? What does it really take at these different levels? And really be honest with yourself about how are you treating these people, because you might have really great happy customers and you're not doing anything. Or you might have customers, but you aren't really doing anything to make them happy. You're doing the bare minimum. Like they're just not yelling at you online and you're just like, success. So you really need to think about where these people live, and you're going to have people in different groups, depending on their temperament, depending on how they're working with you, depending on their relationship with you. But at the end of the day, if you look at them in these kind of set perspectives and realize there's not one singular persona that we're looking at, it really helps you think about, from their motivation, from your motivation, how are you working together? Because the real thing is that you have this art between making sure business is happy, but making sure they're happy too. And if it swings in one direction more than the other, someone's going to be mad, and either the customers are going to leave or leadership's going to fire you. You really need to make sure that you're balancing both to make sure that both are happy. Because if you do that, then leadership's going to give you the resources to continue, and the customers are going to keep doing what they need, which is going to drive business and make sure that you're hitting the KPIs that you need. When we think about community and what community looks like, one of the more popular ones is Peloton. Now, Peloton has had a nightmare of a couple 2 years. They were the unicorn of 2021 and 2020, and then things kind of fell off. There were massive changes. The blue ocean turned into a red ocean really quickly. There were a lot of problems with the stock. The CEO was pushed out. But the one thing that never changed was how passionate the community was. You could look online and see all the conversations, and you could tell who was a Peloton user versus who wasn't based off of their entire sentiment. People in the Peloton community were very, very pro Peloton. They were forgiving. They were making excuses for things that were happening with the stock prices. They were making excuses after the layoffs, really saying like, it doesn't matter. I still believe in this brand. And it's because they had created the perfect ecosystem for them to truly feel connected. There were rituals that they could participate in, so they knew how to behave once I get in there. There are ways to have this umbrella community within the Peloton and then micro inside of it. So I could be a mom inside the Peloton community, or I could be a HubSpotter inside the Peloton community. So I have this wider umbrella, then I have this like micro niche that's just for me based on how I self-identify. There's ways to help you self-identify too, whether it be badges or hashtags. You can wear merch. A lot of people would get like on their 100 days, their 100 rides, they get Mylar balloons so they could be featured. So you have UGC, you have all these things. And so what you're thinking about community, especially with March Madness happening now, if you're unsure of what successful community looks like, think about going to a sporting event. There are different entry points. Once you get there, you need to know how to operate. Where do I go to find my seat? Where do I go to get a program? Where do I go to get food? Where do I go to use the bathroom? How do I know where the score is? All of these things. But once you get in there, there's specific chants that you're going to know about because you're a fan. There might be a jersey or a specific color you wear because you are a fan. There's going to be a set time period where you're going to be doing things with a specific goal. You're going to yell during certain times. You're going to scream during certain times. You're going to be excited. You're going to take pictures. You're going to tell people you're in there. All the behaviors that you see in a successful community, you see in sporting events, and fans do them naturally without thinking about it. But think about those common behaviors once we get in one big group and we're collectively following the same kind of rituals, the same kind of beliefs, in the hope that our presence will change the event. If I'm loud enough, my team will win. If I scream loud enough, we'll beat them. We'll get to go to the Sweet 16. So it's important to really note those and then understand, and I hope the advocates on this call feel this way. I hope they feel that their success is my success, that if I take care of them, I am taken care of, that my numbers are good because I am making them the priority, that I am making sure they have a seat at the table, that they feel like they get access to things they wouldn't normally get access to, that they have a louder voice, that I'm amplifying for them, that I'm sharing, I'm reposting their stuff on LinkedIn, that I'm retweeting it on Twitter, that I'm sharing it with leadership. Like, hey, did you see this tutorial that they just did of this new product update? They should feel like they have a seat at the table at HubSpot. Now, if you want to create your own community and you're unsure of where to start, there is a community, minimum viable community canvas. It's on community-canvas.org. And this is the advocacy version. It creates this very structured question list so you can think about who's going to be involved. It helps you create a foundation for what's important. Who is this for? What does it look like? What does success look like? How do we talk to them? How are we expecting them to scale? How are we expecting them to feel? How can we determine value for this? Thinking about it in this perspective, it's going to make sure that you and leadership are aligned. And this can change over time as your advocates are changing, as their needs are evolving, as their relationship with you is changing or evolving. You need to constantly be going back and understanding that community at its heart is a human experience and it's a human experiment. Every single day, you have variables in your community that you don't know about, but they are impacting your engagement numbers. They're impacting how people react to each other. They're impacting how things are getting questioned and answered in those sessions, if an event is popular or not. All of those things matter because every single human that gets involved is adding their own perspective. They're adding their own baggage too. And so the way they come into this event even is dictated by how their day was. Did you get in a fight with your spouse before this call? Did you spill something? Did you have a really bad one-on-one with your boss before this? Did you just get engaged this weekend? Did you just have a birthday? Are you doing something really cool this weekend and you're planning? Whatever that is, all that good, all that bad, it becomes a part of who you are. And in your experiences at events, in your experiences at work, in your experiences in community, it changes how you're working with each other. So the best community managers I know, they are constantly experimenting. They're constantly observing. They're seeing all these variables at play. Some variables, they don't even know what they are. They just know that someone's acting just a little bit better today. They have a really good mood, or maybe they're quiet. Maybe I can see them in the community, but they aren't doing anything. Those observations are priceless. And that only comes if you care. And your community and your advocates, your customers, they can always tell when you care, because you will naturally do what you can to take care of them. You will naturally step up to listen to them because you actually want to hear what they have to say. It's easy to get frustrated with people when you don't care. You're like, oh, I don't want to hear your feedback, but like, go ahead. I'm not going to listen to it. I'm not going to do anything with it, but like, go ahead. People can tell. People can really tell. And that's because at the heart, that's what we're all looking for. So let's say that you love this. You think I'm right on everything. Kudos to you. But let's say that you want to start an advocacy program, but you have no idea where to get started. There is so much data that you probably don't realize you have that could point directly to the advocates that you want to work with. If you do NPS, when were the last times you reached out to the people who gave you really high NPS on an event, or on the last time they reviewed with you? When was the last time you reached out to the top 15% of people in your community? It's easy to get stuck on those like 2 or 3 people that are really great, who will like live in there. It's really hard when you're just not there yet, when you're like really engaged or hyper engaged, but you're not that top 1 or 2 people. Those people tend to be ignored, even though they're doing a lot of really great work. Do you care about what title they have? Is that someone that you want to engage with? Are there people that are going to every single webinar that you have? For the LA Hug, I would challenge you to see who are the people who are at every single Hug event that you offer. What can you do special for them? What can you do to make them feel seen and be like, we see you. We know you were at every single thing. We know that you're probably the first person to RSVP for every single thing. Make them feel seen, because they know they go to every single event. And they want to know that you know too. So be very thoughtful about how you're looking at how people are engaging with you, how they're talking about you, what they're doing naturally, because those are the easiest people, because they already want to be fans of you. They already want to champion you. They just maybe don't know how, because you haven't given them the access and the opportunities to do so. They just need you to say, I love you back. And then they will just burst all over the place and do whatever you want. And that's how you're going to find them. So you can do it through social listening, like we talked about. There's survey tools, community dashboards, but there's a really great opportunity for you to really learn. And you should be constantly learning through your community, and not in this is the monthly report. I find that especially in business, we get so stuck in only looking at things when we need to create a report for something, instead of actively looking because we want to learn more. We genuinely want to figure out how people are engaging, what they're doing, what that looks like. And so
to that point, before we move on, I just have a question.
Go ahead.
So Deanna's asking, what are those KPIs you're tracking when there are so many variables influencing the behaviors you're trying to drive?
That's a good question.
Especially when presenting to the C-suite, when vibes aren't enough.
That's a really good question. So what I would do is I would look at, I think it's in this deck, but it may not be. There's a framework that I have for going from vibes to data. And it's, if I do this, and you figure out what this is to you, then it will make our community members or customers feel this. They're happy, they feel like they feel connected, they feel loved, whatever. If I do this, they will feel this. Then they were more likely to do this behavior. And this behavior can be tracked here. So you go from, if I do this action, it'll make you feel this certain way. You'll be more likely to behave in this way, which corresponds with this specific KPI, which we're tracking here. Honestly, this year, the KPI that most businesses are going to care about is revenue from retention and net new. So thinking about how are people staying, and that's one thing that small businesses especially win, is because there tends to be more of a thoughtful bond with small businesses because they know the owner more likely. And so they feel like they're more connected. I know who to talk to if there's a problem. This person will take care of me. And so a lot of small businesses can win even when pricing isn't is a pain point, because they feel that connection. That connection can make up for a lot of pain points. And so retention is huge. How are the people who are the biggest fans? Are they more likely to stay? Because when they leave you, they're not just leaving them as a customer, they're leaving the community they're a part of. They're leaving the access you gave them. You're leaving this entire relationship. So instead of being like, ugh, I don't like that vendor anymore, I'm not going to go there anymore, you're breaking up, which is harder, which hurts more. And so more likely people are likely to stay. Now, net new revenue. Net new revenue is huge because a lot of businesses are suffering right now. So they need new business. They need new people to come to them. And as we previously talked about, we don't believe brands. We want to hear from the customers and strangers. We want to know, like, what's the real dirt on working with that business? How are they actually going to treat me? Not how they tell me they're going to treat me. How are they actually going to take care of me? And that's when those advocates play a huge role, because by being an advocate, they feel deeper connection to you. They have more access. They have more opportunities. So they're more likely to stay. So you have your retention, but then they're more likely to also share their positive stories and get other people to see what they could have with you, which is going to in turn create net new revenue and net new customers. So it's this flywheel of love that you're creating by finding the advocates and giving them what they need to feel safe so they stay. But then they're also able to churn and create new leads for you, because they're going to feel like, I want other people to feel how great this is. This changed my life, or this made my business so much more successful. I want others to have the same experience. So I'm going to keep sharing that online, and webinars and case studies and quotes and testimonials and referral programs, all those things. Any other questions?
No, what do you think about self-sponsoring events to promote customers and net new?
I think as long as you're coming from a place of wanting to really highlight them, it's great. But I think that if it comes across as self-serving, it's going to be icky. It's going to be icky for the customers who are involved, and it's going to be icky for the people who return. People don't want to be pitched to. They want to be educated. They want to learn new things. They want opportunities. So I think self-service events are great, but it's all in how you do them. It needs to come, when you go back to that question about authenticity, there needs to be that level of authenticity. I'm not doing this because like I have to do an event this month. I'm doing this because I genuinely care and I think it's worthwhile.
Okay, that is all the questions so far.
Perfect. So I do want to highlight this because a lot of businesses do case studies, and that is their entire lens for customer marketing and advocacy. They don't do anything else. And then they wonder why other people are not as involved, that they're not joining in, that they're not jumping up to do things with them. And it's because that's not how they want to love you. Some people may not want to do a case study because like, oh, that sounds boring. I don't want to do it. Others may not think that they've done anything that's case study worthy enough. Like, yeah, we've had some success, but it's not case study brag worthy. And so by creating multiple ways for them to love you and for multiple ways for them to react, you're giving them opportunities to say yes, instead of putting them in this one singular box that is a yes or no binary sort of choice for them. Somebody might want to make YouTube videos for you or TikTok videos. They might want to write blogs for you, or they might want to do a case study or do a quote or do a reference call. But if you just say like, hey, we want you for a case study, yes or no, and then you're like, why do they not want to work with us? That's not it. They don't want to do that. And so make sure that you're picking different options, that you're sharing all these wonderful opportunities and access for them to do that. It makes a huge difference. And that creates a habit loop. Like we talked about with the flywheel, what you're doing is you need to make it repeatable. If someone does one case study, but they never do anything else for you again, yes, that case study can live on and it can do things, but it isn't going to be as impactful as someone who's regularly engaged in creating opportunities with you. And so find out ways to be frictionless and like make things as easy as possible. Make it so that saying yes to it is really the hardest part. of the journey for them. I'll take care of it. I'll make the event set up for you. All you got to do is show up. Like whatever that looks like, make it easy for them to do that. And then create expectations of what's in it for them if they do it. That's going to create that habit loop, that flywheel effect, which is huge because in community as well, it's one thing to get people to join. It's very different to make them return. And the reason they return is very different. The motivations are very singular. A lot of the reasons people join could be community is out of they feel disconnected or they're just curious. I just want to see what's in there. And then they go on, they're like, it's just like every other community. I'm fine. Never come back. Doesn't mean the community wasn't right. Maybe you could have shared onboarding with them. Maybe you could have provided ways for them to learn more about what this looks like for them or how they can better utilize this. Oh, you used it for this process now? Well, next time, maybe you could come if you have this need. Being really thoughtful about what's motivating them and giving them a reason to return is huge. For the one-man band, I love this gift. If you're a small business, you don't have a lot of time, maybe it's a small team, you're trying to figure out what this looks like, then I want you to take everything into consideration that I did, but I want you to prioritize that you're really going to lean into a chunk of it. So we're talking about human versus automation, like we talked about. You're going to set up those talk walker alerts. So you set it up once and it's going to tell you whenever you need them. You're going to figure out what community tools, if you're using like a common room or a Threado or anything like that, that's going to be able to give you reports so that you can figure out what are the data, what's the data that you need to be thinking about. Make it as easy to reach you as possible in the community, outside the community. Every single person that I work with as an advocate knows how to reach out to me through email, through Twitter, through LinkedIn, through whatever. They know to find me wherever to find me. And then one-to-many activations. It's not just one-to-one, it's one-to-one and one-to-many. How can you talk to them as a group versus one-to-one? And that just taking those steps is going to be a huge way in making people feel heard and seen. And then I'll leave you with this quote from Dan Mimran Scott. And that's it. I know we ran over, so I'm sorry.
No apologies necessary. There are a lot of really brilliant questions, and I wanted to make sure that we were able to touch on everybody's question. If you haven't noticed in the chat, we did share some links. We would love your feedback. We're hoping, the next hug session we do is just as fabulous as this one has been for us, and I hope for you guys as well. Thank you, Denny. Also, if you missed it, there were 3 different resources that were shared in the chat. I'm going to paste them in the chat again if you want to copy those. And that's the HubSpot voice and tone guide, Christina's SEM Rush class, and the program chart. So while we're wrapping up, let's spin that wheel.
Yeah, so we're spinning the wheel for some HubSpot swag today, and we have 2 to give away. I've kind of been jotting everybody's name as they come and go. So I'm going to go through this. And if your name is not here, they should be in alphabetical order. I tried, but I did this manually, honestly. Your name is not here, pipe up in the chat now so I can add it. And open the chat. Everybody good? Everybody's in? All right, so here we go. For the first piece of HubSpot swag, the winner is Caroline Young. Is Caroline still? Oh, no, I lied. It was not her. It was somebody whose name I'm going to butcher. So we will be in touch and we're going to spin again.
Okay. I've never seen so many names on this thing.
I know.
Gianluca.
All right. So these 2 people, we will be emailing you and letting you know how to get your swag. And yes, Christina, amazing, 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 amazing. I knew everybody was going to love this topic by the number of registrations we had, but man, amazing. That's all I can say. Does anybody have a better word?
Thank you for having me. This was lovely. And feel free to share the deck with anyone who wants it.
Yeah, we will. We'll post it to the event page later today and email everyone. So thank you to everyone who's here. Thank you to everyone who's watching the recording. And we will see you next time.
Ciao.